What a night for Kiefer Sherwood. The hat trick as the Canucks kick off their three-game road trip with a 4-3 shootout win in St. Louis. We're breaking it down on Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Pacific Toyota Dealers studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Rink Wide Vancouver brought to you in part by Bet365. I'm Jeff. He's Irf. And the Vancouver Canucks close out the month of October, a 6-6 hockey club. They're down all kinds of players. They lost another one. In this one, lost a player but won the hockey game. Gutty effort from these guys, thanks in large part to Kiefer Sherwood Irf, who has a share for the time being of the National Hockey League goal-scoring lead.
Yeah, I think we can all say that we wouldn't have believed you if you would have told me through 12 games Kiefer Sherwood would have 9 goals here this season. They can't all be pretty, Jeff, and that one sure as hell wasn't. But the Canucks walk away with the 2 points, and that's the only thing that matters in this at the end of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought, oh man, like no Quinn Hughes, no Connor Garland in the first shift of the hockey game. Brock takes one right there, and we'll wait for the update, but was in distress, didn't return, and fingers crossed for him. But even before Brock Besser goes down, people are thinking, well, the Canucks don't really have a chance. They just don't have enough firepower in this lineup. The one thing they had going for them was this is not a murderer's row out on this Central Division road trip. Nope. The Blues are in a bad way right now. Minnesota might be worse in the here and now. And Nashville, well, Nashville hasn't got off the launch pad this season. So there are gettable games there, and they may have to look like this, where one player rises up and puts his team on his back. Kevin Lankinen needed a performance. He delivered for the Vancouver Canucks, and Kiefer Sherwood with goals 7, 8, and 9, evenly distributed over 3 periods, 1 in each of the periods. Had other close calls as well, was out there in overtime. I thought, wouldn't that be storybook if he somehow could get the 4th of the night and put the Blues away. It's wild. We do stat that stands out. We could do about 100 on Kiefer Sherwood alone, already a share of the goal-scoring lead in the National Hockey League. He has all 5 Vancouver goals against the St. Louis Blues in the run of play this season. He had a 2-goal game in a 5-2 loss back on October 13th, that Thanksgiving afternoon. And here he comes in with the hat trick. Had a hat trick last year against the Colorado Avalanche. So Kiefer Sherwood, something about this St. Louis team, and it's working. They'll play the Blues one more time. Kiefer's probably already licking his chops and rubbing his hands together, waiting for that opportunity. But he's been incredible. He's been incredible since the moment they signed him for $1.5 million for the second year of a 2-year deal. And it does present this conundrum of what do you do? The meter is running, the rate is going up on a nightly basis, and yet there is a peril of signing 30-year-olds to long-term contracts. How many can this club commit to given where it is and its designs on trying to get a whole lot better? And yet, how could you not want Kiefer Sherwood to be a part of the mix? It's the heart, it's the soul, it's the effort, it's the hits, and now it's the finish as well. But he's not going to score on 35% of his shots all season long.
No, he's not. But I think the one thing that, when you just said it, when they signed him for $1.5 million, is you didn't think that there was going to be this type of goal-scoring production at all. He had 19 goals last season. I think that was what they said, okay, this is insane as to what we signed up for and what we got. Reality versus expectation are 2 completely different things. And right now, the reality of it is this guy has worked on his hands, right? And he led the league in hits last season, and he set an NHL record for that. But it's how his game has evolved so quickly, I think, is what's been really impressive here for the Vancouver Canucks and for Kiefer Sherwood. I put it out on X all the time as half a joke, contract season, because these guys have crazy contract seasons, but he's been doing this for a couple of years now. So obviously he is going to be in for a big payday, whether it's here or somewhere else. And that's good for Kiefer Sherwood. But yeah, it's an insane effort every single night. And Jeff, he goes so quietly about his business. He's not a guy that's flashy. He's not a guy that's all in the media. The guy works his tail off each and every night, even when he was with Nashville. Wasn't a goal scorer there. Wasn't a guy that played the top 6 in the lineup. But how effective was he in neutralizing Quinn Hughes, that series against the Nashville Predators, right? So I think you fast forward all of that and see how much his game's evolved. It's been really nice to see.
And you look at the goals that he scored. 3 different ways of scoring goals here. The first one in tight on the power play. Good work by Evander Kane in the corner to force the turnover. Puck squirts in front, and there's Sherwood in the blue paint, going to the net, all that kind of stuff that you want to see from guys that are going to deliver at the National Hockey League level. So the first one, a little greasy, but again, a lot to like in the goal. The second one, absolute clinical finish on the breakaway, and we've seen this from him already a couple times this season. You get him into open ice, one-on-one against a goaltender, and he makes no mistake, and it's unfortunate because he rang one off the post in the shootout. The way that he was feeling it, I thought, can't miss. Well, apparently he can. But he scored on a beautiful breakaway goal midway through the second period to tie the game at 2, and then the third period, it's that wrist shot, and we've seen him score from distance as well this season. So, he's not a one-trick pony here. He is finding different ways to use all the tools in the toolbox. It's really impressive stuff, and you have to feel good for him.
Yeah.
Not just because it's contract season. He's a likable guy, and as you said, he's not in it for the fame and the maybe the fortune because it is contract season, but he's not in it for himself in any way. He's a humble guy, loves what he's doing, playing in the National Hockey League, and boy, is he playing well. I think it's safe to say playing the best hockey of his career, and I think we said that last year about him, and here he has found a way to dial it up again. The Canucks beat the St. Louis Blues by a score of 4-3 in the shootout, so they're 6-6 on the season. When you think of the travel, you think of the injuries. It's pretty impressive stuff. I think you do have to tip your cap to the Vancouver Canucks for finding ways to stay afloat here. And again, we'll wait for an update, see if they're going to have to dip back into. There's nobody left on the farm, and yet if Brock can't go he wants to play in Minnesota, but if he can't, I don't know. Is it Vitaly Kravtsov time? Is it Joe LeBate for a second time around? Nils Oman sent back down. We'll see. I mean, there are options, but it's getting awfully thin down on the farm. I mentioned Kevin Lankinen in passing, and I want to circle back to him because, look, it hadn't been a great start to the season for him.
Nope.
Giving up way too many goals, hadn't delivered victories. Thatcher Demko elevating his performance, and you know that they can't overplay Demko. There's already this discussion in the market about the discrepancy between these two guys. Is it going to force the Canucks' hand? I think Kevin Lankinen needed a game like this one, and I know he gave up 3, and I didn't love the first one, the Dylan Holloway goal that went right through him. But after that, he buckled down the shot. So, yeah, the shot's 39-18. So, more than a 2-1 margin in favor of the Blues, who outshot the Canucks. If I do my math correctly here, 27-9 over the final 2 periods of regulation time, and then had the only shots in overtime. So, it became a bit of a shooting gallery at the Canucks' end of the ice, and Kevin Lankinen was up to the challenge, delivers a win, and the guy is lights out money. When it comes to the skills competition, Canucks got a win in Chicago. Didn't give up a goal there. Stares down all 3 of the Blues, Kyrou, Snuggerud, and Schenn in the shootout. Kevin Lankinen, 2-0 in shootouts, 7 for 7 individually. You can't do any better than that.
No, you can't. And I think that that's one of the things that we're going to have to look at and say, as these injuries, hopefully this is the end of it. Not going to, these guys are going to start to come back here at some point. They're going to rely on both their goaltenders. They're going to have to rely on Thatcher Demko and Kevin Lankinen, and that's why they gave Kevin Lankinen an extension to give Thatcher Demko nights off, and when he's in net, you have a good, solid backup goaltender. But on some nights, you got to hope that it won't just be the goalie that's going to get you through a game.
For sure. I mean, playing with fire, they know it. But under these circumstances, just getting this game to overtime was a good point, and then you take your chances. The way they approached overtime, I mean, before the clock was winding down in the third, and I looked at you and I said, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
They're going to have some choices here. They ended up using 7 different forwards and 3 different defensemen. So 10 of the 18 skaters in uniform. Don't see that too often. Now, it didn't amount to much. Again, they didn't generate a single shot on goal. So there's work to be done in the 3-on-3 session, but beat the Oilers in overtime the other night with the 3-forward set. Oh, yeah, 2 of those 3 forwards weren't available by the time overtime rolled around in this one. Garland didn't play, and Besser was knocked out of this hockey game. So we'll give them a pass on that front. End of the night, they win the hockey game, and you take those 2 points, add them to the collection, stay within an arm's reach of that chase pack in the Western Conference. and hope that you do start to get some reinforcements, whether it happens on this trip or whether they get back off the road. But if they're 3-0 beyond regulation time, this is a massive development for the Vancouver Canucks, who left 14 bonus points on the table and missed the playoffs by 6 or 7 at the end there last year. And we all said, like, if their record was even just a little bit better, if a few of those losses had turned into wins, and they just couldn't find a way and shot themselves in the foot way too often last year. They were okay in shootouts last year, but they were dreadful in games that were actually settled in sudden death overtime. So just the one game has been decided in overtime. 2 have required a shootout here, but end of the night, Canucks have picked up 3 bonus points, and that'll just add to their confidence level. And I know every shootout's, you hit reset, everyone is sort of its own thing. So to say that, these guys are lights out good, well, Lankinen is. And so if that gives them an edge when they go to the next shootout, they'll take it, certainly. Demko hasn't been forced to play a shootout, but just the mere fact that early on through the adversity, they're finding ways to collect the scraps there in these games that go beyond 60 minutes.
Absolutely. And look, it just speaks to the resiliency of this group. Everything. A lot of people counted the Vancouver Canucks out in this hockey game. And you look at the betting lines, Bet365, they were no business winning this hockey game. You have the backup goalie. You don't have any forwards. Brock Besser gets hurt. And somehow, some way, they find a way to do it. The Evander Kane goal that was disallowed, that could have broke them as well heading into overtime. Something that obviously we're going to talk about in a little bit. But there was every reason for the Vancouver Canucks to lose this hockey game was there. And somehow, some way, we're sitting here talking about them collecting 2 points and a win.
You're looking good now. Crystal clear. I was frozen there. We were fighting through our own adversity here. But I think
we're good now.
Things ironed out. The Gremlins are out of the system on the eve of Halloween, and maybe it was just the Ghosts and the Goblins. Whatever the case, we're rolling now here on Rink Wide 4-3. The Canucks defeat the St. Louis Blues. It's on to Minnesota for a 4 o'clock start Pacific time on Saturday. Let's get to the 3 stars here on Rink Wide. We'll get to our stat that stands out as well, and it does feature Kiefer Sherwood. Reminder, too, we want you to bring it with the Super Chats. Lots to talk about, lots of storylines here. What caught your attention? Be part of the show. Fully interactive here at Rink Wide. Hit us up with the Super Chat. Our charity partner, once again, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. We already have a couple of Super Chats that we will get to, but do want to reveal the 3 stars that are a presentation of Greta Bar. I'm sure it was hopping tonight as the Canucks were in action. Of course, the World Series going on. Football playoffs this weekend for the BC Lions and the Vancouver Whitecaps as well. Incredible time right now, and Greta's an incredible place to take it all in. They got all the big screens. They got the street food menu, drink specials, game day drink specials as well, and the arcade games that just add to the experience. If you haven't checked it out, do yourself a favor. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar, let the games begin. 3 stars in the building. Kiefer Sherwood, Pia Suter, and Jake DeBrusk. Sherwood, obviously.
Yep.
And we'll talk more about his night in totality, but suffice to say, there was no question. This is a no-doubter. The hat trick, Kiefer Sherwood is the 1st star. Old friend, Pia Suter, with the goal that tied the game midway through the 3rd period on the power play. Got a loose puck at the side of the net, cashed in there, up to 4 goals already for Pia Suter. Had a chance in overtime on his own rebound, and that was one of the 2 stops that Kevin Lankinen made in the extra session. So Pia Suter involved in this hockey game, off to a nice start there, and not a surprise. He's a really good hockey player. We've seen that the last couple of years here in Vancouver. And a guy that doesn't figure in the 3 stars often, but tip of the cap to Drew O'Connor. Picks up a couple of assists in this hockey game, has been skating miles, using his speed effectively without any kind of bottom line. But tonight, there was a bottom line. And so just want to make mention of that. Drew O'Connor is the 3rd star. So there you go. Sherwood, Suter, and O'Connor. The 3 stars here on Rink Wide. And one of our Super Chats from Casey Shuffle says, DOC gets 3rd star for me. And that came in before we did our 3 stars. So we're on the same wavelength with Casey Shuffle. I've never seen a player deke their own pants off before. Most entertaining moment outside of Sherwood. And yeah, Sherwood put on a show in this hockey game. So appreciate the Super Chat there. And again, it all goes to support the BC Mental Health Foundation.
Good for Drew O'Connor getting on the Rink Wide 3 stars, right?
I don't know. mean, I'd have to go back and check. I don't think I'm going to, but
Yeah.
I'd have to go back. I mean, he scored the overtime winner on a penalty shot in San Jose in a low scoring. That might have been enough to get him in there, but off the top of my head, I don't recall Drew O'Connor being one of our 3 stars here on Rink Wide.
Well, no, you're right. And he is skating. He's using his size. He's using, whatever he can to try and get pucks to the net and play differently. And, he's being asked a little bit more of himself as well. Up the lineup, down the lineup, power play, PK, wherever you're going to find Drew O'Connor, he's going to try and make the most of his opportunities. So it's good for him for doing that and getting in. Pius Suter, obviously old friend here in Vancouver. Canuck fans know him very well. And Kiefer Sherwood. We've talked about him a lot. We continue to talk about him a lot. He's got the Ovi celebration. He's got to go like this to his hockey stick right now because it's so hot.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just quickly running through his night. Kiefer Sherwood, 3 goals. You knew about that. 5 shots on goal. We had that on the graphic as well. 4 hits. That comes with the territory. He's too busy scoring goals to rack up all the hits. 24 minutes and 12 seconds, Irf. And his first period included a goal, a crossbar. He drew the penalty that he scored in the power play. He had a couple of shots there, and he played a team-high 7:52 of the first period. So he was going. Adam Foote knew that. We've seen Adam Foote ride this guy. He can do this. I don't know that he's up to giving the Canucks 24 minutes on the regular. I don't think that's going to happen. But in the here and now, they need performances like this one. And it's not going to be Sherwood every night, but maybe the next night it's Elias Pettersson rising to the challenge. Maybe Jake DeBrusk finally finds his scoring touch. Maybe the shootout goal, it was a thing of beauty. Maybe that's enough to just get Jake DeBrusk feeling it a little bit more. These are the guys you're going to have to lean on. You can't expect Mackenzie McEachern to come in and be any kind of savior, or even the Abbey line. You want to cut them a little bit of slack. Those guys, Sasson, or is it Sasson now? Or do we wait another week and it'll be, who knows? Whatever the case, he got overtime. Archie Bain's out there in overtime. As we said, Adam Foote extending his bench out of necessity. And for the most part, just about everybody stepping up for the Vancouver Canucks in this hockey game, including young Tom Willander, who plays 19 minutes and 9 seconds. Like, that is NHL top 4 minutes in his second National Hockey League game. Played 12:37 the other night against the Rangers. Got a little bit of power play 2 time. Here, he was out in overtime at one point as well. Got an OT shift, but 19 minutes and 9 seconds, didn't look out of place. Played a hell of a lot more than D. Petey, which some interesting deployment there. It was D. Petey that played 12:09 in this hockey game. P.O. Joseph in his 200th National Hockey League game against his brother on the other side, a team that he has played for. He didn't play all that much. And then the final 5 minutes of the hockey game, every time I looked up, he was out there. His shot was part of the goal that Evander Kane thought he had scored that was challenged, effectively so, although I've given up. Like, honestly, and this isn't a Canucks thing, this is league-wide. I'm tapping out here. I get it wrong every single time.
Yeah,
I cannot figure out what is goaltender interference. Like Jordan Binnington, one of the most demonstrative goaltenders in the National Hockey League. He didn't look like he had that big a deal or problem with the call.
Yeah,
his coach challenged it, but like usually it's a tell if Binnington's fired up and freaking out. I think he thought he had given up the late game winner. As it turned out, long review. I prefer baseball reviews to hockey reviews. And it got overturned. So Jim Montgomery made the right call there. Kind of felt like it was a Hail Mary, quite frankly, to me, because when I watched it, I didn't see interference. But clearly the War Room saw something enough to call that play back.
Yeah, it was the P.O. Joseph shot, hit Evander Kane in the arm, hit Binnington, and I think as soon as it hit Binnington, or just before it did, McInern's stick was right there and kind of disrupted, or what the league and the officials thought disrupted his progress or impeded him from being able to make the save. That's why they called it no goal. The Canucks got jobbed on that because it should have been a goal all day long and they should have had a lead with 2.5 minutes to go in the hockey game.
This is from the National Hockey League. The explanation,
Okay.
Video review determined that Vancouver's Mackenzie McEachern impaired Jordan Binnington's ability to play his position prior to the shot entering the net, according to Rule 69.4. If an attacking player initiates any contact with a goalkeeper other than incidental contact while the goalkeeper is outside his goal crease and a goal is scored, the goal will be disallowed. So, I don't know. Again, to my eye, I didn't see enough there, but they did, and on they played. So, Evander Kane still looking for his first goal. Had his moments in this hockey game.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a bit of a flashpoint in the market. I get it. Dozen games in, still nothing to show for it in the goal column, but he does make the play on the first goal, the Kiefer Sherwood goal. Binnington behind his net looked like he had room to sort of rim the puck the other way, although Archie Baines was closing on the one side and Kane was closing on Justin Falk in the corner, and Binnington sort of offloaded his problem onto Falk, but good for Kane, follows through, pressures the puck, squirts free, and there is Kiefer Sherwood to bang in his first of three on the night. So Evander Kane up to 5 assists. Like, the production level isn't terrible. Almost half a point a game. And I should point out that all 5 of his assists have been primary helpers. So it's not like he's dishing off to somebody and letting them do the heavy lifting here. He is doing plays or making plays that are impacting performances and ultimately goals by his teammates. So, you want to see that first one. He thought he had his first one. The Canucks thought he had his first one. But it's going to have to wait for another day. But all things considered, he played 19 minutes and 45 seconds. Like they're
3 hits, 5 attempts.
They're playing a ton of him, and you just hope that at some point it's going to happen for him.
I want to go back to Tom Willander for a second. I think that the important thing to realize here is that playing 1909 on the road, he's earned the trust of his head coach. And he's earned the trust of his head coach pretty darn quick, Jeff. You're playing that much hockey on the road in a game that's pretty tight the whole way through. Your coach, you clearly have done something right where your coach, decides that he wants to have you out there. When we don't notice him, we didn't really talk about him too much when you're sitting here watching the game. That's a good thing. When you're not noticing defensemen for doing things wrong or making mistakes, that's obviously a good thing. So reps are going to come. He's going to play a lot more. Obviously, he's going to be someone that they need. And these are just steps into him developing into an excellent hockey player, because the less that we talk about him, and then you just look at the production that he had on the ice in that game. He had 1 shot, 2 of them were blocked. He had 1 block shot, and that was it. Stat line seems pretty clean, and pretty good hockey game from Tom Willander.
Yeah, the underlying numbers aren't flattering, but they weren't for anybody. The Canucks got bleached in the shot department, right? Yep. 39-18. Willander, the shot attempts were at 5-on-5 were 18-12, so 40% individual Corsi. Actual shots were 10-5, so a 2-1 margin, but he wasn't on the ice for a goal against, and he was on the ice for a goal scored by the Vancouver Canucks, so he comes out on top, or at least ahead, in the goal department. We look at ice time, 6:47 in the first period, 6:55 in the second. It was cut a little bit, but still played almost 5 minutes of the third period, and then 37 seconds had the 1 shift in overtime. What's interesting to me is that they found almost 20 minutes of ice time for him as a right side guy. Phil Aronik still played 25 minutes, and Tyler Myers played 24. So, without Quinn Hughes, I thought this might be a night where DPD actually sees a heavy workload. That was not the case. DPD was the low man on the totem pole when it came to ice time distribution among the defenders at 12:09, and P.O. Joseph got up just a shade over 15 minutes for the Vancouver Canucks. We do have to talk about it, and then we'll get to the stat that stands out. The penalty kill.
Yeah.
And I get no Derek Forbort, no Teddy Bluger, now no Connor Garland. Brock Besser was doing a little bit of penalty killing. There are reasons for this, but St. Louis goes 2 for 3 on the power play. The Snuggerud goal, not your conventional power play, off the rush, but it still comes on a Canuck penalty.
Power play, yep.
The second one, the P.S. Suter goal in the third period to tie the game. Again, the Canucks were under siege. They were back on their heels. It sort of felt like there was a St. Louis goal coming, and sure enough, it was Suter there banging in the rebound of a Cam Fowler shot. Fowler had a couple of assists in this hockey game. But the penalty kill gives up 2. That's now a dozen through 12 games. Only Ottawa, and Ottawa gave up 2 more tonight against Calgary. Ottawa's given up 14 power play goals. The Canucks have given up 12. We talk about getting outshot badly, getting beaten in the special teams battle. Like, these are all really dangerous ways to think that you can have long-term success. On any given night, you can persevere, and they did in this one. But a power play goal against, basically spotting the other team power play goal every single night out, that's a dangerous way to live in the National Hockey League.
No, and I think that for the Vancouver Canucks, you got to fix that quick. And it's going to happen when guys start to come back. Teddy Bluger, apparently next week, and, Quinn Hughes and, Brock Besser. We think there may have been an update, should be okay for next game, I think is what Adam Foote said post-game. So that's some good news there for Brock Besser. But you're right, Jeff. I mean, it's just special teams. You can't lose a special teams battle if you don't score on the power play and you're allowing goals. I think that's the thing to remember as well. If the Canucks are trading chance for chance and goal for goal on these power plays, it's okay. You're still hanging around teams. But if you're getting buried on the PK every game and your power play does nothing and it stinks, then there's a problem.
All right, let's get to the stat that stands out. It's delivered by Uber Eats, and every time the Canucks are playing at home, you can get a buy one, get one 6-piece chicken McNuggets from McDonald's in Vancouver, only on Uber Eats. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip. Before, during, or after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Hashtag crave the stats. And I like this one on a night where we're finding so many different ways to acknowledge the performance and production of Kiefer Sherwood. This is going back to the start of last season, his first season as a member of the Vancouver Canucks, first year for Jake DeBrusk. Vancouver goal leaders since the beginning of last season. DeBrusk has 30, and Kiefer Sherwood has now matched Brock Besser for second over that span with 28. 19 last year and 9 already in the first dozen games this season. DeBrusk and Besser, proven goal scorers in the National Hockey League. Expected to be goal guys in this league. Sherwood, a late bloomer, guy that put up big numbers in the American Hockey League, and he is finding his own now. And that, to me, is truly a stat that stands out over the last year and a month. Kiefer Sherwood right there. I mean, the way that he's going, we might do this again in 2 weeks, and he might be the team leader over the last season and a little bit the way that he's firing the puck right now.
Man, when you're hot, you're hot. Like, it's crazy. And I think the consistency in that stat just shows how much he cares about putting it into his craft. You have 19, and it's easy to get a little bit complacent. It's easy to, say I had one good year and, I feel pretty good about myself. I'm coming into it. But he knows what's at stake. He knows how important he is to this team. He could have just been the hits guy last season, totally. Not scored 19 goals, and everyone would have been like, what a year for Kiefer Sherwood.
What a find, $1.5 million.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And then here, 19 goals, and now the leading scorer. Nobody has more goals than him in the NHL. Nobody. Like this at this point in the season. So great for Kiefer Sherwood, great for the Vancouver Canucks. Obviously, that stat proves just how much he means to this team. But it's going to be nice to see what happens here. I assume on more nights we're going to be talking about Kiefer Sherwood again, because he doesn't seem like a guy that's just going to go away quietly. I think he's going to be a guy that's involved, or a guy that we notice every single night on the score sheet.
Scott in the chat says, it does seem like Foote rewards guys who play hard with more ice time, and if they're strong in that particular game, you talked about that with Verlander. I think the same could be said about Kiefer Sherwood. Like, he was into this hockey game. They're down forwards. The coach knows what he's going to get from Kiefer Sherwood. You're getting an honest effort every night out, and right now you're also getting a bushel full of goals as well. So I think, yeah, Scott, I would agree with that this is a coach that sort of coaches by feel and is rewarding that effort. And so, again, the Canucks treading water here, but that's all right. 6-6. A lot of years, you'd say 6-6 out of the gate. Like, you'd want something a little bit more than that, but extenuating circumstances galore here. I think we're all aware of what they've been up against, and so I just don't think there can be anybody that looks at 6-6 and thinks that's somehow a disappointing record. The jury is still out. Like, when they're healthy, and if they ever get anywhere close to fully healthy, how good are they? There's no way of knowing. And there's still going to be all sorts of questions about center ice depth, about scoring, but in the here and now, for them to grind out a victory like this one, I think you have to acknowledge them and salute them there. Another super chat supporting the BC Mental Health Foundation. This one comes from GoldenEye Forever. Kane completely emotionless after the shootout goal. I didn't. I'd have to go back and watch.
That, yeah.
I assume he's talking about like the team celebration. It's funny, DeBrusk scores at one end and everybody off the bench mobbing Kevin Lankinen, and rightfully so. So DeBrusk had to make the long skate there to join in, but I didn't even detect or notice Evander Kane after the game. So I don't know if others in the chat can sort of weigh in on that one, but I'm going to plead ignorance there. I didn't even see him in the celebration.
Yeah, no, I didn't see it at all either. Just going to go back to Kiefer Sherwood for a second. 24 minutes of ice time, that's his career high.
Yep.
In ice time. So, I mean, like, dude's going to be played a lot. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out for a second.
Yeah, I think it's the second time this year that he's been up around 24 minutes.
23, I think, against Washington.
Was that what it was? Yeah. So scored that night on the power play here. He scored a power play goal and scored 2 at 5-on-5. And that close to opening the scoring in the shootout as well. Beat the goaltender, but rang one off the post. And that shootout as well, Jordan Kyrou comes in, a bunch of dekes. Lankinen says, get out of here. Sherwood then off the post, and then it was Jimmy Snuggerud, and he's a shooter. Had already beaten Lankinen once with a shot, tried the shot. Lankinen stands his ground. EP40. At first, like in real time, I thought he'd kind of whiffed on his shot. The replay looked like he got enough on it, but not enough to beat Jordan Binnington. And then Braden Shen, and there is nowhere to hide in an NHL shootout when the puck rolls off your stick well before you even get a chance to make your move. That's going to show up on all those highlight reel loop or plays of the month things. But nothing you can do about it now, but it set the stage for Jake DeBrusk. And I've said this through the years, and there was a time a couple of seasons ago where the Canucks were so guilty of having the game on their stick in a shootout like Jake DeBrusk did. He scores, they win. And I don't know how many times the Canucks would miss those opportunities and then end up losing the shootout. And I was like, just put the hammer down when you have the opportunity. And Jake DeBrusk did, came in as a left-handed shot. Went back against the grain a little bit. Short side on Jordan Binnington, up under the bar. And there you go, 4-3. It is a victory for the Vancouver Canucks.
Got another stat. This is actually courtesy of Joey Kenward on X. Pretty good one. Canucks this is their 19th different forward they used in a game this season, and we're at game 12.
Yep.
Canucks used 22 different forwards all season last year.
No, they are being tested right now. Like, I've covered this team for 25 years and have seen some rashes of injuries without a doubt, but off the top of a season and to have it compounding on a nightly basis, instead of getting guys back, it's just another one being added to sick bay or the injury list. And I mean, at some point it has to turn. Like it has, and it has to. Maybe on this road trip, we'll see. If not, they come back off. They actually have consecutive days off next week, which is crazy to think because it's unheard of in this compressed schedule. But we're showing the list there. I mean, you know the names: Quinn Hughes, Connor Garland, Nils Höglander hasn't played a game all season. Philip Hedl, Lecker, Mackey, Forbert, Mancini, Bluger, and Guillaume Brisebois and Jet Wu, who weren't going to be on this roster, but both injured, and that's part of the story down in Abbotsford as well. We joked about it. If the Canucks had to put a call into the farm, like, they're so depleted. I feel for Manny and his group. They scored 1 goal in 2 games at home against Calgary here over the last couple of nights and managed to get a game to a shootout there and lost, but their only goal came from Sawyer Mineo, a defenseman. They didn't have a forward score a goal in the last couple of games because most of their forwards are up in the National Hockey League now, and just a really difficult way to live. So it is the trickle down. It's not just the NHL team, but the Calder Cup champs from a year ago are absolutely just up against it every night out in the American Hockey League right now.
All right, let's put your thinking cap on really hard here. Without saying Kiefer Sherwood or Kevin Lankinen, what did you like most about this hockey game from the Vancouver Canucks?
Yeah, I think just overall team resolve that gave up an early goal.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people thought, really, like, Besser's out, and 3 minutes later, they're down 1-0. Not the ideal start to the game or the road trip. And Lankinen, at that point, buckled down, made some stops in the first period. Again, I didn't like the first one that got through him, but I like the way I wasn't supposed to mention him.
It's okay.
But that's part of the team resolve that they could have kind of had a pity party for themselves at 1-0 and didn't. It's a long game. There's a lot of time left there. I liked a few of the lesser lights. Drew O'Connor, we pointed him out. Mm-hmm. The Abbey guys gave them some shifts. Atu Ratu picks up an assist on Sherwood's third of the night. It's been a quiet season offensively for Ratu. Ratu trying to hold his own in the faceoff circle, and he did. He was put out there for some late draws. In fact, with 5 seconds left in regulation, he won the draw cleanly to Elias Pettersson, and he wasn't able to do anything with it. I thought they might get one last buzzer beater shot away. But Ratu wins 8 and loses 7, so he's better than 50% in the faceoff circle. Pretty quiet night for Lukas Reichel. Didn't notice him an awful lot, but he's had some nights where he struggled in the faceoff circle. He went 6 and 5, so a guy that's basically a career 40-something faceoff guy. That's a good night in the faceoff circle for him. So there were little contributions across the board. They all added up to a very big win for the Vancouver Canucks, and I don't think you can underestimate it. I don't want to make more of it than ought to be, but look, the other night sucked against the Rangers. It was a terrible game. Get shut out, lose Connor Garland, and at that point they had lost 4 or 5, and there was potential for things to start slipping away. They had to find ways to get some points out here on the road trip, and before the injured guys start to return to the lineup. So great start to the road trip now. They can go to Minnesota feeling good about themselves.
Yep.
They've been able to win a couple of games that have required overtime. Again, they got outplayed, no shot, and all that kind of stuff, but no crime in having the better goaltender as they did the other night against Edmonton. They've won 2 of 3 without Quinn Hughes. And I think that is, in and of itself, a bit of an achievement for this hockey club, right? I think it helps them understand that they can win without Quinn Hughes, that maybe the games will be more entertaining, more fun when the captain is back and in there. And I think we now know. I mean, Dollywell reported it was a groin for Quinn, played 6 games in 10 nights, played half the game in a bunch of those. But it sounds like it won't be too long for Quinn Hughes, that either by the end of the trip or when they get back home. So this isn't like it's going to be weeks without Quinn Hughes, maybe a week without Connor Garland. Hopefully that news is encouraging about Brock Besser, that a few ice bags in strategic areas for a bunch of hours on the flight to Minnesota. But let's hope that he is able to get back there in the lineup. As somebody in the chat here, LC250 says, team didn't carry an extra forward, but they don't have a roster spot for a recall right now. And that part is true, but they could shift Connor Garland retroactively to IR if they know that he's only going to be out a week and he's not going to play on this road trip. So there are levers that they could pull if they had to dip into the farm.
It's interesting. I asked you that question, and of everything you spoke about, kind of brings me back to what Kiefer Sherwood told Murph post-game. I saw a little quote of what it says. He said, "Next man up makes us that more dangerous. That much more dangerous."
I mean, I understand the mentality of players thinking that, but at some point, your next man up is a guy, whether it's Mackenzie McEachern or Joe LePage, who, so it gets thin pretty quickly from this point forward. But again, I like the mentality, not looking for excuses, and in Sherwood's case, elevating his performance and elevating the play of the hockey club. They win it by a score of 4-3 in a shootout. This segment of Rink Wide, presented by the Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. You can drive 72 kilometers on battery alone. Just hit the battery button and away you go, and that'll help you on the commute around town, from downtown to the rink to the grocery store and then back home to recharge. It also seamlessly transitions from electric to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. And it looks good, too. It's got the sleek, low, wide exterior, sophisticated interior, and it's loaded with tech that is actually easy to use. And right now, you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down. That includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. So the Canucks get 3 from Sherwood, and the winner from DeBrusque, they will pack up and move on to Minnesota. The road trip wraps up in Nashville on Monday. Yeah, they're right back into Nashville after being there on the last road trip where they fell by a score of 2-1. And this game early on, it was 1-1 through one period, and then Snuggerud scores early in the second, and it stayed 2-1 to the middle stages. And I was thinking to myself, this kind of feels like the Nashville game. Not a whole lot happening. Goals have been hard to come by for the Canucks. And that Nashville game felt like a real missed opportunity because Nashville didn't play very well that night and hasn't played very well all season long, doesn't score a lot of goals. And when I look at the Canucks record at 6-6, and I mean, that was a game that was there. Demko was terrific. They just needed to find a way to generate something to even get a single point out of it. So, that's one game I look at and think 6-6, like, all right. And yet it could have been a little bit better. Also, you could look at the Dallas game where you're down early and, mount a comeback. That's not going to happen all the time. So across the board, it's been periods here and periods there. Great goaltending from Demko.
Yeah.
A couple of decent performances now from Lankinen. And then you get, again, I don't think you can count on Kiefer Sherwood scoring 9 every 12-game segment, but it has been a blast to watch, and it has helped the Canucks. I mean, this one, he is fully responsible for delivering points in that point column to this hockey club that's 4-3 on the road, by the way. So 7 of the first 12. By the end of the trip, it's going to be 9 of the first 14 away from home. And, again, finding ways to just stay afloat. And I think right now that's about all you can ask of this Canuck hockey club.
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing is staying afloat, head above water. You got a 500 record right now, and, you have gettable games on this road trip. You prove to yourself that you go into this one and everything's counted against you and still you can come out with a win. Well, you know what? You're probably getting your ace back in your goaltender on Saturday afternoon against the Minnesota Wild. Brock, I think, is probably going to play on Saturday against the Wild as well. So 2 guys coming back in, as Brock effectively didn't play this game. And then you take your chances and you go up against the Nashville Predators, who have all sorts of problems of their own.
It's funny. We mentioned guys like, I'm still calling him Sasson, Baines. There wasn't a whole lot from Linus Karlsson, played 13 minutes and 28 seconds. I mentioned Atu Ratu. I'm going to leave Mackenzie McEachern out of this. Yes, he came up from Abbotsford, but I don't put him in the same category as the Calder Cup line and Ratu, guys that spent the bulk of last season down on the farm. And I was surprised by this. The other night on social, I pointed out that it had been statistically been a slow start to the season for Baines, for Karlsson, and Ratu. Ratu got an assist in this hockey game. Sasson had 3 goals. So, and he's played a fewer games than Baines has, certainly. Karlsson didn't play the first couple. I made the point on X that I had to believe that this organization was hoping that one of these Abbotsford guys had popped a little bit more. Now, again, this came in the wake of a shutout loss where nobody scored for the Vancouver Canucks. And this wasn't me saying that any of these guys has played poorly. And the underlying numbers show that, they're doing a lot of the right things. So I think there's 2 separate thoughts here. And I had a lot of people push back and what are you talking about? They're playing great. I don't like the use of great. I save great for greatness. So that's one thing. They've been okay. And defensively, they're not getting scored on a bunch. They're spending a fair number of their shifts in the offensive zone. We talked about this a little bit post-game. Mm-hmm. But I do think that organizationally, this management group in the offseason went out and made really one move, and that was to bring in Evander Kane, and left a wide path for these guys that were terrific in the Calder Cup playoffs to come in, earn an opportunity, and step into the lineup. And I'm going to maintain and this game tonight doesn't change anything. I still think management through 12 games had hoped that one of these guys had popped a little bit more than they have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's an argument that can be made that, okay, well, the Abbotsford line is good, but not one of those guys. It's all together, and that was made in a pinch, and then they were good, and then a couple games they weren't very good. Then you have guys like Atu Ratu. He's a guy that wasn't down there, but is going to be an everyday NHL player. But even then, he didn't have a great camp. And then the defenseman, he didn't really. Is Victor Mancini? Did he pop off?
Yeah, I'm keeping the defenseman out of it. I'm just looking really at those 3 guys, but I think you lump Sasson in there. So there's 4 of them. Again, this isn't me knocking them. They're not hurting the hockey club, but over the course of a season, Archie Baines is approaching 40 games in the National Hockey League. The guy's got 3 points, right? I think anybody that has been accomplished in the American Hockey League. If you gave them 40 games in the NHL, I think they could get you 3 points. So maybe the points will come. And I went back and forth with a guy on X who he believes that all 3 of those guys are going to get 15 goals this season. And I said, 15 each? That's 45 goals. Like, I'm not sure the 3 of them will combine for 15 at season's end.
I'll lay that bet right now. Come at me. It's hard to do because they don't generate offense that much when they're out there anyway.
And they don't play a ton, right? Like some nights their ice time is limited. But the flip side of that coin is with all these injuries, like opportunity is knocking loudly for these guys, for any one of them just to give a little bit more. And that's why it was nice to see Aatu Räty pick up an assist and just it's something. There's a tangible takeaway beyond winning a bunch of faceoffs. And it's great that he wins the faceoffs, but if he wants to have a long and productive NHL career, he can't just be a guy that wins 50% of his faceoff, 56% of his faceoffs. So I stand by what I said the other night. Not a knock on these guys, but I do think organizationally part of the plan was, yes, these guys were terrific in the Calder Cup run. Let's make room for them, and they're going to be part of what we're trying to put together. And right now, it's just been a fair bit of treading water.
I'm not entirely sold on the argument that any one of those 4 guys right now are an everyday NHLer. They're there now because they have to be. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, finishing each other's sentences there.
We're working too much together.
I don't think that any one of those guys right now is an everyday guy. And maybe it'll come and maybe they can grow into their own, but because they have to be there is why they're there. Like, I think if the Canucks were fully healthy, top down, those 2 of the 4 wouldn't be here right now.
Hey, make sure you're subscribing to our Rink Wide YouTube channel. Getting a fair bit of traffic there these days, and that is terrific. And we're trying to build it up and build it out so that it is a destination for you. Canucks are on the road, so we don't have access to practices and game day skates. But when they're here at home, we're going to be populating the site with more and more of that through the season. So again, hit the big subscribe button there and make sure you're following us and what we're doing on YouTube here at the Rink Wide program. All right, Bet 365, line of the night. What are you looking at?
Well, I failed everyone last time too. So let's get back in it and take a look. So there's a bunch of games tomorrow. The one that I love the most is Matthew Barzal getting scratched because he was late to a bus. But Matthew Darche did do this to, I don't know if it was Braden Point or someone else on the Tampa Bay Lightning. It did happen to a player, and the player did get scratched that game for missing a bus. So he's brought that character and all the rules over from Tampa Bay. So Barzal, anytime goal. You know he's scoring against the Washington Capitals. Ducks money line against the Red Wings, and I like the Vegas Golden Knights at home in an afternoon game against the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, I had to go do some research. It is Nevada Day in the state of Nevada. It's a state holiday. And so not just Halloween, but you get a heavyweight showdown, Colorado at Vegas. It's a 1 o'clock start Pacific time on a Friday afternoon. So if you got some time on your hands, you can dial that one up, get it out of the way before trick-or-treating and the baseball game and everything else that's going on. But heck of a hockey game. 1 o'clock start on the Friday afternoon. All right, well, we will be watching and following those as we go here. Just before we take a look at the Canucks' next opponent, the Minnesota Wild, I do want to do this at the end of each month.
Oh, yes, my homework assignment.
That we do Rink Wide every time that you and I are together for the final time, and this is it for October. So the Canucks are 6-6, as we've pointed out. The storylines here. But maybe the biggest storyline coming into the season was things have to go well for the Vancouver Canucks to keep the captain happy. And I think a lot of us felt pretty strongly that a winning season was the best way to get Quinn Hughes on board and willing to re-sign. Can't do that until July the 1st. But we're going to do this monthly here on Rink Wide. The final game of the month that you and I work together, I'm going to get you to give me the Quinn Hughes vibe check. Where do we sit with all the things that have gone on here in the first month of the season?
Well, it's interesting. 6-6, so you're a 500 hockey team. I think, Jeff, for the first time that we're doing this. It's very fitting that we're on the eve of Halloween because it is a little spooky. It's a little scary and flat out frightening with all the injuries that the Vancouver Canucks currently have. So you run down the list of all the injuries that the Vancouver Canucks have right now. Quinn Hughes out, Connor Garland out, Niels Höglander out, Filip Chytil out, Jonathan Lekkerimäki out, Derek Forbort, Victor Mancini, Teddy Bluger, oh my God, I can take a breath. Guillaume Brisebois also out. That's 9 Canucks. Brock Besser obviously out as well, but we think he's coming back. We're going to go Vibo meter at a 4. And the only reason it's not lower is because it's the 2 guys in net that are getting this team through each and every night. 6-6 is a decent record to have. The injuries have absolutely decimated this group. Hopefully, they start to get some guys back, but I'm putting it at a 4, and I'm optimistic that once they start getting some guys healthy, November will be a better month for the Vancouver Canucks. They've gotten killed on their schedules a little bit, obviously, but everyone will because it is an Olympic year, condensed schedule. You're going to see every team go through a certain pathway and everything like the Canucks have had with their schedule. But right now, we're going to start with the 4, 6-6. Injuries aren't helping this team, and the 2 goalies have been playing excellent.
All right, fair enough.
What do you think? I was going to go higher?
No.
Okay.
No. And a win like this one, maybe hell. I thought you might come in a notch lower, but 4 is, yeah. I mean, again, 500 hockey for now is fine over the course of the long haul. It's not going to be what Quinn Hughes and the Vancouver Canucks want.
Yeah, they're going to have to take a lot more W's than L's, right? In the next couple of months.
Yeah, like they're going to have to get into some of those stretches where you go 8-2 or 7-3, whatever. And is this team, with its flaws, is it capable of winning 8 out of 10 at any point? Like if you look ahead to the middle of November, just an absolute gauntlet. And this happens to every team every season. And you just take the games one at a time. But when they come off this road trip and they've got Chicago and Columbus, and then it gets real in a hurry. Colorado, Winnipeg, Carolina, Tampa, Florida, Dallas.
Those are good hockey teams.
Those are all really good hockey clubs. Then they go down to California, 3 games in 4 nights. That's not going to be easy. I see San Jose's doing a number on Jersey tonight. Sharks can score some goals. They give up a lot, but they're fun and probably a tough team to play against some nights because of their ability to generate as much as they do.
Did you see Edmonton and the Rangers? Edmonton was up 3-1. JT Miller just scored in overtime.
JT Miller. Wouldn't that have been a storyline here the other night? But look at that. JT was his 3rd of the year. So they shut out the Canucks and they go into Edmonton. They rally there and in the process do everybody in the Pacific a favor. Where it looked like the Oilers were going to get 2, they only manage the single point, and their issues continue giving up way too many goals and losing in overtime like they did here to the Canucks the other night. All right, we look ahead to what's next, and we talked about this a little bit earlier when we talked about the St. Louis Blues. Minnesota Wild, like they got Kirill the Thrill signed, and he's doing what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
He scored. He had their only goal. They lose 4-1 at home to Pittsburgh. They have 1 win in their last 9 games, Irf.
Mm-hmm.
The Minnesota Wild have 1 win in 6 home games this season, but they have 1 win in their last 9 hockey games. They're 3-6-3 to start the year. So they've played a dozen games like the Canucks. They've won 3 of them and have only 2 regulation wins in that time. Kaprizov's got 7 goals. He's got 16 points. Matt Boldy's got 12. And Marco Rossi, remember him from the summertime. Rossi's off to a nice start. He's got 11 points. But kind of like the Blues, they can't get a save. Philip Gustafsson, is he going to be Sweden's goalie at the Olympics?
Who is going to be their goalie at the Olympics? They got a lot of bad ones.
Binnington might be Canada's. Gustafsson might be Team Sweden's. And then UC Star. The Canucks could see 3 Olympic goaltenders here on this road trip
true.
alone. One thing to keep in mind, and we already lived through this with the first game against Chicago and Jason Dickinson and his hit on Filip Chytil. Remember Yakov Trenin caught Derek Forbort with a late punch, fractured Forbort's orbital bone. Of course, Forbort's not in the lineup, but you do wonder. Nothing happened with Dickinson, and I doubt anything is going to happen here with Yakov Trenin. I mean, when Forbort's back in the lineup and they see Minnie, maybe. The Canucks have to focus on just trying to get out another victory here. Oh, we should mention this as well. We talked about the Canucks and their penalty kill, and it's been an issue. Minnesota's got the worst penalty kill in the National Hockey League at 62.5% heading into this game tonight. So they have been moldy when it comes to killing off penalties. Canucks are having some problems there. Goaltending issues. Thatcher Demko should go back for the Canucks. That should give them an edge there. We'll see. I don't know what to expect. It's a 4 o'clock start, Pacific time, the early game on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday. But you add it all up, as long as you don't let Kaprizov run wild and sort of single-handedly beat you, on paper, this looks like another gettable game for the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, that and they might be rolling with that everybody against us mentality, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of maybe what Kiefer Sherwood was alluding to when he was telling reporters post-game, it's next man up, that's kind of makes us more dangerous. But you know what? Because nobody believes in them. And they got to win in St. Louis. They got to be feeling really good about themselves, tight group. They're on the road. Like, no one's really around them, no one bother them and all that kind of stuff. So you never know. You go into a place in Minnesota. We know Brock loves playing there. Yep. That's a place he's had success, obviously, as a member of the Vancouver Canucks. And then just go play hockey. I think that's really what it is. Worry about the outside noise later. You're going to get players back. The cavalry is going to come back at some point. But as for right now, you go in with that same confidence you lose. I don't care if it's in a shootout. You still got 2 points.
We basically done an hour and haven't really mentioned Elias Pettersson, which is nice. Honestly, it's refreshing.
Yeah.
But we should, he played 24 minutes in this hockey game. Mm-hmm. And again, right now, it's all hands on deck, especially at the top of the lineup. And so EP40, 23 minutes and 29 seconds, 2 shots, 5 attempts. And he crushed it in the faceoff circle, and that hasn't been the case every night out for him this season, so credit where it's due there. 13-7. He goes 65%, won basically half of the 27 faceoffs that the Canucks were credited with in this hockey game. Again, they didn't need him to be a star. Had a nice weekend. Pretty quiet the other night against the Rangers. Fairly quiet here. They need more, but it's hard to look at this night in totality and think that the effort and sort of the role that he was asked to play got the job done. So Saturday's another opportunity, and we'll see what he and the Vancouver Canucks have in store for the Minnesota Wild, and that's when we'll be back with our next episode of Rink Wide. I see Walkin' Blind says, 500 team in this situation? Call me crazy, but I'm actually kind of impressed by that. I mean, we touched on that earlier. I think that's a fair sentiment, and I don't think anybody can be upset or angry that they are 6-6. It's just that even they know that when they get the bodies back, they are going to have to find a way to ramp things up here if they are going to stay with the pack and ultimately climb above the playoff bar in the Western Conference. But for this night, Kiefer Sherwood was hands down best player on the ice, 3 goals, tied for the National Hockey League lead with 9 on the season. It's truly been an incredible run for Kiefer Sherwood. All right, you've got Saturday off, so I'll have to check the schedule. I'm not even sure who's in with me on the weekend, but you'll be back on Monday then for the Nashville game?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, hopefully it's better than the last Nashville game.
I've had some duds lately, but this one was good.
Yeah. No, at 2-1, I was a little worried because you had 2-0 game the other night. You had the Nashville game last week, but no, this one presented all sorts of storylines, and in the end, the best one for the Canucks was they beat the St. Louis Blues 4-3 in a shootout. Jacob Fraser working hard behind the scenes, so we appreciate all of his help. Intern Hayden is there as well. All right, well, have yourself a great sports weekend, busy sports weekend. We'll see how things shake down in baseball and football.
Just give me a game 7.
And soccer as well, and we'll digest it all, and we'll see you back here in studio on Monday, but we'll hopefully see the rest of you on Saturday after the Canucks and the Minnesota Wild for Earth 5. Jeff, thanks so much for checking out this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.